Hello my beautiful fashionista, welcome back to Yvonne Winifred UG. This video is inspired by this beautiful blazer dress. It can be a full blazer dress, or you can just make half of it, which is either only the blazer or only the sequin dress. So we are making only the blazer today. So I have this fabric that I want to use. You're going to choose which side that you want to make, either the left or only the right, and then cut accordingly. So from the top I left half an inch, and from that line I went down at the 10-inch mark for the bust line, then at the 16-inch mark for the waistline. Then the full length is about 25.5 inches. I just added about half an inch for turning with the lining along the hemline, so I have about 26 inches just there. So now I have this line also. I've left half an inch here at the center back, and that will be the sewing allowance for turning with lining at the center back later. So now half of the shoulder measurement I'm working with is 7.5 inches, but I'm going to add 1 inch for the shoulder dart, and also since this is a coat I can add a 1/4 inch for ease allowance. So now from this line I'm marking 3 inches neckline width and also 1 inch neckline depth for the back. Then I'm just drawing a curved neckline simply like this. Now from this neckline width I'm going to slant the shoulder by 1 inch. The 1 inch is here where the shoulder measurement ended, and after just add half an inch also as the sewing allowance along the shoulder. So from this 1 inch I'm going down by half of the armhole measurement. In this case I'm working with 8 inches, which is the half of the armhole measurement, and I'm drawing a chest line there. So whatever I have here along the shoulder, I have to make sure it is what I have along the chest line, so that I connect these 2 points to make this line that will aid me as I carve out the armhole. So now this line from the neckline width to the 1 inch shoulder slant, I'm getting its midpoint like this to shape the shoulder dart. Also half of the nipple measurement that I'm working with is 4, and I'm adding half an inch, and I'm marking 4.5 inches along all these lines. And now I'm just going to connect all these points to form the shoulder dart line. So this is what I'm making now by joining all these points that I've marked like this. So along the waistline here I'm going to mark half inch on either sides of this line, half inch this side and half inch also this side. And also I'm going to come here down at the hemline and mark 2.5 inches away from the hip line. Then I'm going to connect from that 2-inch mark into the half inch dart leg or dart that we marked, and also from that waistline going up to the bust line like this. So we'll be cutting along those new marked lines. So along this waistline I just want to eliminate the bulge at the back, so I'm going to mark where that line starts from. You just measure half an inch, but since I have this line already and I need sewing allowance, I'm just going to mark directly at this half inch that I left as the sewing allowance. So from that half inch I'm drawing a line straight to the edge here where the hemline starts from, and also from this half inch I'm drawing a line straight to where the neckline depth starts from for the back, and I'll be cutting this out to eliminate the bulge at the center back. So from here now I can start marking the horizontal measurements. So for the bust measurement, which is 38 inches, I'm dividing it by 4, I get 9.5 inches. So I'm marking 9.5 inches here like this from the, then I'm going to add 1 inch for sewing up that dart, and then I'm going to add 2 inches for the side seam allowance since I'll be using lining. If you're not using lining, you can just add 1 inch as the sewing seam allowance. So from there, I'm now drawing my curve, the armhole curve, simply like this for the back. So also along the waistline, I'm just going to mark waist measurement, which is 34 inches, dividing it by 4. Whatever I get, I mark it down, plus this 1 inch that we took in, we replace it back. Then also 1 inch for sewing it up, and the 1 inch for the dart, and also the 2 inches side seam allowance. Then along the hip line or the hemline here, I'm dividing hip measurement divided by 4, plus 1 inch for sewing up the dart, and also the 2 inches side seam allowance. Then after that, I'm connecting simply like this, connecting all these points like that. So that is what we have so far. I'm just going to cut out along the sides. For the case of the dart line or the midpoints, I'll just cut them later after marking the front. So I'm cutting only there, and also along the center back like this. So I think you're realizing that we're just cutting only one piece. There is no folding since we are just making a half blazer. So now for the center front, I'm first folding in the allowance at the back. We just need only the center back, where the center back starts from. So I'm folding in the allowance for the back, hiding it away, and also making sure that my pieces are not moving anywhere. So I've marked where the neckline width is. I'm using the same. So, and for the front, I'm marking 3 inches neckline depth. Where the back ended, I just added 2 inches. So, and also for this lapel, I've marked 2.5 inches, but I added half an inch, so I've marked 3 inches. Half inch is the sewing allowance, and from there I'm just going to connect from the lapel, coming down here along the waistline, and now from the waistline going down, I'm just going to add half an inch for turning the lining. So simply I'm doing this and connecting like that. So that is all for the front. Now I'm just going to carve out the neckline depth like that. So that is all that we need for the front. Also, I've just used the back to cut out the front. Now I can start cutting. So you have to make sure your pieces are not moving. That's why you're seeing me putting the phone on top, and also this heavy scissor. You can even pin the pieces down. So now I'm cutting along the dart, that middle shoulder dart, to separate my pieces, simply like that. And even this other side like this, just as you see me doing. So after all that cutting, I also did cut the lining pieces in a satin black fabric, just as you see. So I just duplicated all these main pieces to form my lining pieces. So this is what I have. and now I just have to sew up that shoulder, that line. So I'm just going to be folding right side to each other, and then I'll be sewing by 1/2 inch. So these are the black lining pieces. You have to make sure right sides are facing each other, pin them together, then sew from up going down by just 1/2 inch like that for all the pieces. So these are the front pieces also. So I want this black lining to come out at the front for that part of the lapel. It will just give it a beautiful color since it's such a different color, which is also even matching with the main fabric. So if you have your cotton or any other fabric that is not looking so good, just use the main fabric for that center piece for your linings. So after sewing, this is what I have, and now I just want to finish up or turn with the lining all around the side. But guys, I'm just going to pin this piece of fabric, which is kind of the waist belt that I want to use to join the front to the back. So I'm going to be sewing it up from this side in any shape that I want up to the other side, and I'll leave this other part open, and I'll be pinning it along the waistline like this, and then I'll be sewing all around, making sure this is in the middle. It will be kind of ropes at the side that I'll be tying. So even for the back, this is the same fabric. On fold, it is 2.5 inches. The length is about 27 inches. You can use from 20 going upwards or whatever you have. Again, I'll be pinning it along the center back where along the waistline, at the waistline where the waistline is. Then I'll be sewing it up like that, and then I'll turn all these fabrics where the shoulder is. So at the sewing machine, this is what I've done so far. I've made kind of a design here on these waist belts or the ropes. I've marked where the waistline is and I pinned it there. The midpoint of this rope is along where the waistline is supposed to be. So that is the back, and this is also the front. I've done the same. After sewing it up, I turned it to the right side and I pinned it along the waistline, and I made sure that this other side has that kind of a design, so I'll be using them as ropes. So this is it after the sewing. So beautiful. This is the lapel also, 2.5 inches after the sewing, and I also turned it at the top there by 1/2 inch. So now this is the back also. This is the belt or the rope that I added, and I like what I see. So now I'm just going to be joining along the shoulder, and then I'll cut out the collar. So you just place lining to lining, main fabric to main fabric at the wrong side, then sew by 1/2 inch, making sure that those shoulder seams are aligning very properly. So now guys, I have this piece of fabric where I want to cut the collar. So I folded it into two like this, and I'm going to mark this other side 1/2 inch. This side, it will be the side that will be at the center back. Then I'm marking the length of the, that the length that I got after measuring all this part where the collar is supposed to sit, from the 2.5 inches lapel part up to the center back. I got about 8 inches, so I'm going to add 1/2 inch side seam allowance. And now this side I'm marking 3.5 inches, guys. 3.5 inches. Remember, it is on fold. This piece is on fold. Then this other side I'm marking 2.5 inches. So I'm going to connect these 2 points with a straight line, simply like this, forming my collar. So that is what I have, but this other side I'm going to still go out by half an inch like this and connect, and then cut all this out. Let me first use this ruler to shape it very beautifully. And now I'm just going to cut everything out. Remember, it is on fold, and I'm cutting this other side which is open. I'm not cutting at the upper part which is on fold. So I'll just be adding some interfacings, and I'll be sewing up the sides by half an inch. Then I will attach the collar to the main jacket. So this is what I have after flipping it to the right side. So I'll start from here where the lapel ends from, and then I'll just be attaching the collar going all around like that. But it is best if you just sandwich this collar in between the lining and the main fabric at the wrong side. And that is what I did, guys, and I came up with this. So this is what I have so far after attaching the collar. You have to iron it so that it lies flat. And here with the rope or the belt, I just made kind of a bow, and I'll just be attaching a sleeve. I didn't show it up here, guys, I'm sorry, my space just ran out, my memory card was out of space. But I have linked a video on how to make a long sleeve, and I'll just be joining along the side, and that will be all about this half blazer. So that is it for today. This is how the back looks like. You have to iron everything flat so that it comes out beautifully.